Welcome to Sessions with Coach April. I'm your host, April Hogan, and today the topic is one that I know almost everyone, if not everyone, silently wrestles with, even if you look confident on the inside. And we're talking about the imposter syndrome. That feeling of feeling like you're really not good enough or you don't belong, even when the evidence shows otherwise. So I've invited a special guest and powerhouse, Dr. Maryann Rivera-Dannert, to help me unpack this today. So she's a speaker, author of many books, and transformational coach who's been helping people push past their self doubt and into their full power. Welcome to the show, Dr. Maryann. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm super excited about this conversation.
I am too. So, just a little background information. So, this is sometimes I have people on that I haven't had a whole relationship with prior. But so, I've been on Maryan's show before. She's been on my show before. We've co authored a book together. I actually, for this advertisement, I have a picture of us at an event together. So, I'm going to post that saying we did this today. So, I'm so excited. So, it is nice to catch back up and get to see and have this conversation with you today.
Awesome. Let's get started.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with what is imposter syndrome, right? So it's something I feel like most of us, if not all of us, go through in some light, in some kind of way, whether we want to admit it or not. So you tell me how you define the imposter syndrome.
So, for me, imposter syndrome is that little nagging voice within that just starts speaking to you a little louder whenever you're trying to do something new, whenever you're trying to step out of your comfort zone. That little voice that makes you feel and question yourself. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? If they only knew what you have done, if they only knew what you have been through. And the thing about it is that I feel that imposter syndrome, like you said, everyone at some point, whether they have been aware of it or not aware of it or don't want to admit it, has struggled with imposter syndrome at some form, some way in their lives. Whether it's through, being a wife, being a mother, being a girlfriend, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, whatever it is, there's something that whenever you feel, okay, I'm ready to go do this thing, whether it's write a book, step into something new, that little nagging voice starts talking. And if you're not aware of it, that voice convinces you that the lies are actually true.
Right. And I think some of it is not even lies from other people. It's things that you tell yourself, like, "Oh, I'm not good enough. Ooh, I can't do this." Or, um, and I say this a lot. One of the biggest things that people struggle with is not just a lot of people think people are afraid to fail, and I don't think as many people are afraid to fail as people who are afraid to succeed. Because once I
Succeed.
succeed, there's an expectation, like, "Oh, did I do that on accident? Am I really that good?"
Right.
So I think a lot of it has to do with just like that inner voice telling you, like, you don't belong here. And we see other people and we're like, oh, they're so confident, not realizing most of them are going through the same thing.
And the thing about it too is that our words, and I'm pretty sure that everyone has heard this in some way stated in their lives, that words have power.
Mhm.
And when you start to believe these things, the universe starts to show you evidence that it's true. So when you
Absolutely.
start having that little voice, oh, you're not good enough, something happens that you're like, oh, I knew it.
Hmm.
Or if you're starting a business out, excuse me, and for example, nobody comes out or your expectations are like super high for your grand opening, for example, and only like a handful of people show up. That little voice, I told you, no one is going to believe in you. You're not good enough, and things like that. So you start seeing evidence, which kind of like reinforces the imposter voice. And you just have to like recognize it, like, no, shut up. I am good enough because I
Exactly.
stepped out of my comfort zone and I'm doing this thing.
Absolutely. So I read this book. It's called The Four Agreements. I read it after I got sick. After we wrote this
Mhm.
book about being sick, and then I
Mhm.
got Um, a mentor of mine, actually a client, but I say he's a mentor too because in a lot of areas he's taught me. He gave me the book, told me to read the book, The Four Agreements, and it's basically things that you agree to. And one of the things we agree to are our words, like when you speak it out. Like it was talking about how someone come up and say, hey, you're going to have cancer the next year. If you take those words and you live by them, you will, even though
Correct.
like you could have never. But when you live by that, that's what you accept. So that's
Right.
like four agreements. You're agreeing to that. So
Hmm.
I definitely
Right.
feel like words are everything. I remember when I was sick and I was transitioning back into doing my business full time, I kept saying, I'm going to make this amount within a couple of months. Although after it happened, I'm like, what the heck happened? Like, so, but it is about words, believing those words,
Yes.
continue to tell yourself those words, and doesn't mean imposter syndrome doesn't creep back. Like,
Right.
but like you said, tell it to shut up, like shut up,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
so absolutely. So let's talk about the different type of people or levels in people's lives. As we said, just about everybody experiences. But let's talk about who we would say experiences it most, like in your opinion, whether it's a title, whether it's just a life situation. Like, who would you say, in your opinion, experiences imposter syndrome the most?
I would say probably women,
Mm-hmm.
women of color,
Mm-hmm.
minorities, women who are stepping out of their comfort zone and are, achieving. And I say achieving because that's when the imposter syndrome kicks in a little, louder.
Yeah.
Women who have either been promoted into like C suite presidents and CEOs, women who are stepping again out of their comfort zone, who are going towards their goals, towards their dreams, entrepreneurs, business owners. Because again, when you're at a certain level in life, whether it's titles, whether it's business owners, and things like that, there's a different level of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing up a little differently, and again, that voice, just that inner critic, starts to kick in a little louder. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely for me, I would say that women, business owners, C-suite, higher levels, and things like that. That's not to say that other people don't, but I think it's just a little louder, because again, society makes, particularly women, again, women of color, that you belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are bold enough, when you are fearless and you go here, they try to bring you back down here. So
Mm-hmm.
every time that you try to go higher and higher, they want to bring you back down. So it's like that voice, you're
Mm-hmm.
not good enough. You don't belong here. Who do you think you are? And things like
Right.
that.
I agree. I would say women, definitely people of color, all peoples of color, not just women. But I feel like
Yeah.
women tend to get a little bit more because when you think, first of all, there's the racial standard of where you belong. But even more, now you have not only the racial, but also the gender space that you belong.
Yeah.
So, as colored women, you have both that you're battling with.
Right.
I think now men, in some ways, especially colored men, are stepping a little bit more in it because society is telling men that women are smarter, which now can make a man who's a man's man, right, an alpha man, feel like, oh well, if she's this and she thinks she's better, or but I definitely feel like those people who are succeeding and achieving in areas, even in failure is a thing, so even if you're failing but you're continuing to go, that means there's more of a spotlight on you. It's one thing when you're only paying attention to your own imposter syndrome telling you who you are and who you're not. It's a whole other thing when now you have the spotlight and you're battling your own imposter syndrome, but you're also looking at and hearing all the things that everybody else said that you can't do or you shouldn't be doing, or if you're doing it, it's because you took a loophole, right? Like, she had to have done that or he had to have done that to get there. So it does make you kind of feel like, you know, that voice gets a little louder to you because you hear yours and you hear
Correct.
everybody else's voice
Yeah.
telling you what you shouldn't
And
and
the
should.
Correct. And then the thing about it too is that if you do research, research will show that there are more women who are entrepreneurs. There are
Mhm,
more women who are getting higher level degrees, masters, PhDs, doctors, and things like that. And it's like, so it's just recognizing we're doing the work. We
yeah.
and we deserve the accolades and things like that. So it's just recognizing that and be able to use the tools to overcome that, that mindset.
And I don't want to be this person, but we actually do more than the work because there's things
Yeah.
that um, people not of color or minority can get without doing as much work as those who
Correct.
don't necessarily get those same privileges. So if we just had the normal work, just imagine where we would be. We do beyond the work. But I guess the lovely part about that is like I'm resilient. Like
Yes.
so through it all, I'm resilient. So real quick,
Yeah.
let's talk about and I know a lot of people experience this being the first, right? The first in their generation to succeed, the first one in their generation to be seen, the pressures of being the first, right?
Yeah.
Because now you deal with societies, what you're supposed to be, your own, what you're supposed to be. But then, unfortunately, oftentimes, and we hear this a lot, your family is not always your biggest cheerleaders, right? Because they know you when you were unsuccessful. So the thought is,
Correct.
they they're the ones who don't buy your book first. It takes a while, you know what I'm saying, if they ever do. um,
Yeah.
so how do you like what is your thoughts on getting past those, because I feel like sometimes that's what holds people back because they're looking for a support system in their family and they don't have it, so they feel alone and they typically don't take that leap. So what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
getting past that?
I agree 100% because when I came out with my very first book, which was 2016, when I wrote, when I was a part of my first anthology project, of course, you have that expectation that your circle of friends, family members are going to be the first ones to rush out there and buy and support, and they're not.
Mhm.
And the thing about it is that I had a friend ask me one day, and this was several years later, who is your ideal client? So I gave her the list of, okay, so who's your ideal client for coaching? Who's your ideal client when you write these books? Who's your ideal client for your podcast? So I gave her the list and she was like, do your family and friends circle fit into that? And it was like, not really. Then why are you mad that they're not supporting you?
Mhm.
Because they're family. They're supposed to support you and things like that. But for me, it was kind of like, okay, that's true. The book doesn't fit who they are, but they can still buy it and pass it on to somebody that may fit them. So I
Mhm.
think it's just for you, just, for the listener, just getting clear on, because that's what I had to do. Getting clear on who your ideal client is, whether you're writing, whether you're speaking, whatever it is that you're doing, who is it that you're doing it for?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, your biggest supporters are going to be strangers.
Mhm.
And I think it's just accepting the hard truth and the hard reality that it's something that is just going to be. So it's just accepting that. And, Mel Robbins has a new book out called Let Them. Let them. If they want to
Yeah.
support you, let them. If they don't want to support you, let them. It's
Right.
okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, I think it does. I agree. First, you realize that your biggest supporters are not going to be your family and your friends. And I think sometimes it just starts off as, oh, you're trying to tell me how to do something. I've known you since you were, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it may be a little bit harder. I will say, even in my experience, like people that, regardless of you knowing me when I was a baby, you were my mom and my dad. Like what else? Why? Then you start to realize after some time, like, okay, they have their own lives. They have their own lives, their own things that they're trying to keep together. So you really can't hold it against them. And you find your supporters, and they'll either eventually or they won't. But then you have that issue where you get to a point in life where it's like, oh, okay, oh, I see them succeeding. Can you put me on? you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and I think, that's a good point. And I think you just have to, again, just be very careful.
Mhm.
Just, thread very lightly because, we're humans, especially, as women, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We want to be like the peacemaker and things like that. But if this person was not related to you,
Mhm.
would you hire them?
Yeah,
If the
absolutely.
answer is no, then that's it. It's no.
Right,
You
okay.
can support me in other ways. You can support me by sharing my posts. You can support me by passing out my business card and things
Mhm.
like that. So just ask yourself again, if this was a stranger that I'm just meeting for the first time, would I have them in my space? Would I want them to support me? Would I want them in my business? And if the
Right.
answer is no, be unapologetic about it and just do you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to be successful, and that's regardless. Like I mean,
Right.
some people can show up in your space and slow you down. So if they belong in your space, they'll be there. when one way or the other,
Correct.
whether it's working for you, whether it's supporting you. But if they're not meant to be in that space, then allow them not to be in that space. And then when they
Correct.
want to, based on what they've seen, still allow them not to be in that space. And
Yeah.
honestly, one of the things I always tell even the people that I work with that that I actually know is, hey, like, I just need to know before we work together if something happens and this business relationship doesn't work, or if I have to fire you, or if this partnership has to separate, will it affect our personal relationship? And if it's going to affect it, then I can't do it, because I feel
Right.
like my personal relationship should be more important than this business in terms of our business relationship. But my business is my baby. So I got to
Right.
treat it like it's my child, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And you have to
um,
have those boundaries very clear. Have those
yeah,
boundaries set in stone and don't waver, don't negotiate, because the moment that you do, all hell is going to break loose.
yeah, yeah. Then you got to go explain to somebody why you had to let them go, you know, and
Correct.
everybody's mad at you. So real quick, in terms of like imposter syndrome in your own personal life, what are some of the ways that you've recognized imposter syndrome?
Whew. So for me, again, because and it took me a while to get as vocal and as open as I am about things that have happened in my life. It
Mm,
wasn't always that way. So it was just recognizing that my truth is my truth,
mhm.
whatever it is that I'm speaking about. If someone has another version, then let them write the book, let them write their own story, let
Yeah,
them, it is what it is. So I come from a place of speaking based on my experience.
yeah,
And when the imposter syndrome, tries to kick in, because it often does,
mm,
I immediately recognize it. I rely on my husband because I have a strong support, system.
yeah,
And I ask myself, okay, where is this coming from?
mhm,
Because your inner self, your inner critic, your imposter syndrome, sometimes it's there to keep you safe. So
mhm,
it's like, okay, I've learned to, like, okay, I'm gonna need you to sit down. Let's have a conversation. Why are you here? You're here
mhm,
for a reason. What are you trying to keep me from? What are you trying to protect me from? And we just have that open dialogue like it's an actual person. And I
mhm,
recognize that. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you so much. But remember, I've written 5 other books that were bestsellers. I got the
mhm.
sixth one. I'm okay. Things will
Yeah,
be fine.
yeah,
Or I try to do this business because before I became a coach, I was a photographer. I try to do
mhm,
this business. It quite didn't turn out how I wanted, but I survived. So
right.
I'm okay. Thank you for being here. Imposter syndrome, you have done your job, but now I have determination, I have resilience, I have courage, I have fearlessness, I have fabulousness that
Mhm,
are stepping in to do your job. So bye
mhm,
bye. And
right.
things like that. And I think just reinforcing yourself and always calling back events, situations where you have been successful, and
Mhm,
just reminding yourself of that. Keep a little folder, keep a little notebook of, things that you have been successful in, because when you start hearing that imposter syndrome, oh, you're not good enough, who do you think you are? You pull up that notebook, you open up that file. Oh, this is who I am. I did this. I achieved that. And just reminding yourself of the things.
mhm. So I had a client of mine, but she's also my aunt too. Some years back, her name was Dr. Teresa, and she did stress management consulting, stress management therapy coaching.
Okay.
And I remember, well, first I'll say one of the things that she told me, then something that I go by myself. So one of the things she told me is she had to sometimes just take a minute when she feels like, man, like the space that I'm in is not where I want to be. And similar to what you said, have stuff written down. She just like take a minute, go look back at everything she's already done. Like last year, I was in a space that I wanted to be in this space and I made it. Or a couple years ago, this is where I was at, and these are all the things I've accomplished since then. So sometimes we have to remember all those little things just to remind us, like, man, you're not stuck. You've been moving, but you're
Right.
moving and you're just consider you're so focused ahead, which is good. But when you think about a car has the biggest window is your windshield. So that
Mhm.
means your biggest focus should be ahead. But you still do have two mirrors on the side to let you know what's beside you, right? That's more of like your competition, or, just staying in the trends. Then you have your rear view mirror that's small at the top. So you still need to look back, even if it's just looking back to remind you, wait a minute, this is where you've been, this is where you've come to. Be
Yeah.
okay with where you're at while you focus on moving forward. So that's one. Then my second piece is failure is okay. Like
Right.
I thrive in the thought of I'm going to fail a lot, but the failures are what makes me learn to do what becomes a success.
Right.
Like, so if I don't ever fail, I never learn what success actually really is. And then there are a lot of things that I've learned that make me now better than what I would have been if I would have succeeded the first time, because I've already got through some of the things that I know is not going to work. So not looking at it as, okay, if I fail, now the imposter syndrome is correct. No, if I fail, that just means I need to do it another way.
And
Like,
you're trying. And you're
right.
trying. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You got up
Mm.
and you tried. And then now you
Mhm.
make the decision, am I gonna try again or am I gonna try something else?
Yeah.
Like,
And you
so
mentioned something too that's very important. You mentioned, the two little mirrors on the side, your competition and things like that. And I just want to say, like, competition, looking at other people, being a little envious, it's not a bad thing.
mm,
But the one thing that you need to recognize, is okay, what is it about what that person is doing that I'm a little envious of?
mm,
And then ask yourself, am I doing the work to get me to where I need to be so I no longer have those feelings? Because
right.
sometimes we get lost on the scrolling,
Yeah. Yeah.
mindlessness of TikTok,
Uh-huh.
Netflix binging, and things like that. And then we look at somebody's, awesome book launch or amazing vacation or the brand new car that they just purchased or the house that they're building or that amazing, physique that they're, showing off. And you're like, oh, I want that. But are you doing the work?
Yeah.
And I recently listened to a podcast that was asking those questions, and I was like, all right, ma'am, I'm gonna need you to stop talking to me. Because I felt like she was definitely talking to me because I want, there's a level of success that I'm, striving for. But then it's like, okay, well, Maryann, are you doing the work
Mhm.
that you need to do to get to that point? So when
Yeah.
you look at competition and things like that, just make sure, what you see on that, Facebook post or that Instagram reel is probably like 10% of the 90% of the work
That
and
they're doing.
trials and failures that they
Yeah.
had to overcome to get to that point. So if you're
Ab-
not ready to go through the failures and the heartaches and the loss of resources and time and things like that, be careful what you wish for.
Mhm. Especially when we talk about that slim physique, you getting up at 5 in the morning and then still hustling. Because
Girl,
it's a lot of pressure. When you think of, okay, you got to be a wife and a parent, even if your kids are
yes,
grown, there's still levels of parenting you still have to do. And then
yes,
eventually grandparenting. So a wife, a parent, a business entrepreneur, taking care of your clients, which means now you're a silent partner for each of them because you still got to run your business. People forget that,
right,
okay, well, she's a business owner and she's helping my business, but I still got to run my business, right? Then
correct,
on top of it, you talking about trying to be slim, trying to still have peace and self care. There's not enough hours in the day, so
yeah,
like it is a lot of pressure. So it's almost like you got to consider. I've gotten to a point. I work out every morning, but I'm okay with my little pooch. Like, and when it's gone, okay, thank God. But
yeah,
in the meantime, it is what it is
yeah,
because there's a
mhm,
lot going on in life to be like.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely agree. Hmm.
So let's talk through some how to kind of battle or personally talk yourself away from negative self talk, which is a symptom of the imposter syndrome.
So again, I would say, just focus on the things that you have accomplished, inviting that conversation with the imposter syndrome. Why are you here? What are you trying to keep me from? And if you have a goal, if you, are stepping into like a new role, let's say, not just entrepreneurs, but if you're stepping into a new role and you feel like the negative self-talk is creeping in, again, invite it in, have a conversation with it, see where
Mhm.
it's coming from, but then also truly ask yourself, is this really what I want?
Mhm.
Because just because somebody, taps you on the shoulders and they want to give you a promotion, that might not be what you want.
Yeah.
That might not be what you want. I remember, with my husband, when he and I first met, he had been in his job for like 10 years. And he was, just a regular employee,
Mhm.
warehouse. And I asked him, I was like, well, do you ever, have the goals of, being a team lead or a manager? He was like, yeah, I do. And we worked through that. My background is human resources. So we worked through that. I want to say it was probably like a year and a half later, he got promoted to a team lead. And then about 6 months later, he got promoted to a manager or
Mhm.
supervisor.
Uh-huh.
Girl, let me tell you, he came home that day. He was like, what did I get myself into? I was like, what? He was like, I don't want this. He was like, I just rather be on the floor doing what I got to do. I don't want to deal with people's issues and people's, excuses. I don't have time for that. And then I got to do my regular job. Plus, I got to do other people's jobs because I don't want. No, I don't got time for that.
Mhm.
So just because you have, you see other people achieving certain things, that might not be for you.
Yeah.
And, if you're kind of like, well, maybe I do want to try it, like my husband did, give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, then go back to what you were doing before. Because the thing
Exactly.
about it is, just because it didn't work out does not mean that it's a failure. It
Right.
just means it was not for you. So
Right.
just
Exactly.
recognizing that and being, bigger and better and recognizing that and saying, okay, this is not for me. I'm going to go back to my thing.
Right.
But wondering, if you're not strong enough or confident enough to at least give it a try, you're just going to be haunted by what if for the rest
Right.
of your life.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Mhm.
realizing something's not for you is not a failure, that's a success.
Correct.
Like, because now
Yes.
you can go back to what is for you and be the best at that. Like,
Correct.
so I have 2 more
Yes.
questions that I'm gonna get into. I told you we were gonna go over. So so one of them. So role what does the role in healing from past trauma or past, like, childhood beliefs, what role does that play in overcoming imposter syndrome?
Oh, I love that. So, the little person, so everything that I do in life is about healing little Marianne. I even
Mhm.
have a mural in my event space that's Big Marianne and Little Marianne. It's all about healing your inner child.
Mhm.
And I think it plays a big role because, again, imposter syndrome just doesn't, kick in. Like, okay, we're going to make you, CEO of company XYZ. And you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. There's something that has occurred in your past, whether it's some form of trauma, some form of adversity, something has happened in life that words were spoken over you, whether it's by parents, whoever raised you, society, things that you see, in social media, things that were spoken in whoever, like your environment, your tribe, and things like that, that made you feel like, okay, maybe you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
So, you were super excited, you got a B in, in your exam, and, when you were little, and you came home with the, test and you showed it to your parents and they're like, oh, why didn't you get an A? So immediately
Yeah.
it's like something clicks off, like, oh, so I'm not good enough. And
Mhm.
then you all of a sudden start to, that people pleasing now, creeps in.
Mhm.
People pleasing, imposter syndrome, inner critic, I think they all go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So you want to like achieve, because now you want to make whoever, your adult person in your life was, you want to make them happy. So you're,
Right.
trying to achieve and go above and beyond and things like that. And you always feel like you're never measuring up,
Mhm.
and then you finally get that A in that exam. So you're running home because you're super excited. What are you so happy about? Tommy got an A last week. And you're like,
Yeah.
man, like nothing I ever do was ever good enough. Things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that when you get to a point of just sitting down with that little person inside of you and just being gentle. And I think that when it comes to healing, the little person, you have to go back to that moment where that brokenness happened, where that lack of trust, that violation, whatever it is, and go back to that moment and just let that person know, little Marianne, you are safe. I am
Right.
proud of you. I am here. Give yourself a hug, like you're giving that, little you a hug. And that's
Right.
where the healing begins. It's not just doing the work and then you're moving on. You actually have to confront and get face to face with that little version of you at that
Mhm.
moment when that happens. Because, like that, when things go on as you continue to grow, you're like, okay, I'm healed from that. Okay, now this is something new, because you just don't heal once and it's over. It's a
Right.
continuous process and things like that. So I think,
Yeah.
just getting to that point of where the, the distrust occurred, where the brokenness, the emptiness, happened. Talk to her or him, and just reassure them that they're okay, that they're safe, and then, things will be better.
So I would say first, I love the concept of the little picture and the now picture, and I'm probably going to steal it.
Yeah.
So I love that. But I definitely feel like, because when you really think about it as a child, when you're starting off as a child, you don't start off scared to do everything. If it
Correct.
is, it's generally like you can do anything, right? You want to be Batman and you want to be all these things that you, in your mind, you could do it all, right? You
Yes.
not have a lick of a tune, but you are going to be the biggest singer in the world, like Beyonce. But
Yep.
you don't have, like, you can do anything at that age. It comes as time goes, and either
Yes.
people start telling you that you can't,
Yep.
even if they're not telling you, but the reactions are telling you that you can't.
Right.
Um, Not enough motivation and encouragement is telling you that you can't, not enough support, like those things. That's how all those feelings of, oh, wait, I can't
Correct.
come in. So I do love that piece of speaking to, and you said it earlier when you were talking about the imposter syndrome, it's there for a reason. So taking it sometimes and sitting down and saying, hey, let me find out why you're here, because it is a protection mechanism. So now talk to it, which
Right.
is similar to what you said with talking to the inner child. Hey, talk. Like, hey, what is it that's making you scared? What is the trigger? And I think learning the triggers are huge. Learning your triggers
Yes.
are huge. I say that with
Right.
anything. Like, I need
Yeah.
to know what triggers me to be mad at you, what triggers me to be scared, what triggers me, like all of those things. Because a lot of times, if you can get down to that, you realize that it's not really that person or that thing. It's really something you experienced in the past that is making you scared or timid or nervous or doubtful. So
Right.
going back to that and saying, hey, so why do I feel this way? Like, and then once you recognize why you feel that way, then you can start coming up with ways to overcome that feeling. So I definitely love that. I'm still in the picture thing.
Yeah.
My kids are probably in my bathroom and be like, what is going on? But that's okay. Right. My motivational space is my bathroom. So even in the sense of
Hmm.
like motivation or affirmations, lipstick to the mirror. I'll
Yep.
wake up right
Hmm.
there. So yeah, my pictures will go there because that's when I'm speaking to myself. So that is actually a
Yes.
great way to kind of
Yep.
like help that negative talk. So with that, um, I want to ask one more main question, then we'll get into just you kind of telling people how to find you. But
Okay.
how important do you think community, mentorship, and those people around you? How important do you feel like they are in overcoming the imposter syndrome? We've already talked about how they contribute. Now, how do you
Right.
think how
Yeah.
important are they when it comes to overcoming it?
So I think that definitely it's huge. And I think that when you come to creating your community, your tribe, your sisterhood, whatever, you want to call it, you have to be mindful that you don't want people that are just like you, because you're just going to have a bunch of yes people and
Mhm,
things like that. But it's also at the same time people that you respect,
mhm.
people that are going to call you out on your foolishness, but in love.
Yeah.
They're not going to just blast you off on social media or in front of a group of people. They're going to be like, April, girl, what were you thinking? And
Mhm.
things like, or send you that text message like, what's up with that post and things like that.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I have in my life. They're like, girl, what's happening? Like, what's going on? Who ticked you off? And
Right.
things like that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And things like that. So it's people that you definitely trust, that you respect, and that are either at your level or above you.
Yeah.
And I say that I learned this years ago from an old, mentor when I first stepped into human resources. He was like, you don't want to be not nagging, but venting to people who are below you, because all they're going to do is drag you down. They
Yeah.
haven't been where you are or where you aspire to be. So
Yeah.
you have to be with people, people who are above you, because they've been through, the getting no sales, getting no
Yeah.
clients, and
Yeah.
things like that. So they have navigated that, and they're able to guide, shift, coach, mentor you up above and things like that. And it's really important because again, Zig Ziglar has said it, and many people, have, copied or have repeated it, that you are the sum of the five people that you hang around with. So if you're
Yeah.
hanging with a bunch of people who are always complaining or always nagging or nothing is ever good enough or, whatever it is, that's how you're going to end up being and things
Yeah.
like that. But if you're surrounding yourself with go-getters and achievers and people who are like, this sucks, but I tried, what's next? And they're going for the thing. That's the energy that you want to be around because they're going to
Right.
pull you out of it and they're going to help you grow and push you.
Absolutely, I love that. Yeah, so
Mhm.
my that's one thing I love about my best friend is she is the like now don't get me wrong, she roots for me and she's very much
Yes.
like, I'm on your side and I'm on your team. If we are doing whatever together, then we're wrong together. So that's fine. I got you. But she's like the snap out of it. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know
Yes.
better. Why are you doubting?
Hmm.
Why are you've done all this stuff already? Get out of that mindset, whatever. And I sometimes have to remind her,
Yes.
like, well, I'm human because
Yeah.
she really puts me on this pedestal, but she believes in me more than I believe in me in most cases. Like she's that reminder of, girl, you got this. Stop. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
but then
Hmm.
also telling me it's okay to feel. I actually just told her something the other day. I was like, this, I'm. This is how I feel about this, and it's making me feel like I'm weak. But I'm only telling you because you're my best friend. She said, no, you're not weak. She said, I mean, you're human. So like, just having that person
Hmm.
and those people who are rooting for you, actually rooting for you. But someone who roots for you is not just a yes man because they'll say yes to anything. Someone who roots for you
Correct.
will tell you like, nah, it's not going to work, or like get your head out the clouds, like less, or you're not putting enough work. You wonder why it's not working. You're not working hard enough. Like you're not really. Are you really putting your all into this? But
Right.
also are showing up for you. Like is really important. So I really believe that community. But I'll say one more thing about that before I stop on that topic. I am, and everyone is not a believer, right? So this is not against anyone who's not. I believe you root yourself in a foundation of people who believe what you believe, right? Me being a believer of Christ, not that everybody in my circle is gung ho in that, and I won't hang out with anybody in any other circles. But I think when you're wanting a community, when you're understanding that, like for me, I know I draw my strength from Christ. So knowing that I draw my strength from Christ, if somebody were to say, if I ever feel like I'm not good enough, me remembering that it's not me, that it's God, right? Like that feeds me. That helps me like,
Yeah.
okay, get out of yourself because you're giving yourself too much credit anyway. It's not you. So quit.
Yeah.
So having people who realize that and don't look at you crazy when you say that is important, right?
Right.
Um, but don't get me wrong, one of my really closest friends, she does not believe at all. But we can talk and have that mutual respect of, hey, like I won't necessarily tell you in the way that says God, but I'm gonna tell you in the way that says, hey, like you are empowered because of this, right? Like I'm not going to
Right.
disrespect how you feel and preach to you all the time, although you know that that's what I mean, but also understanding like it's a lot easier when you have a community of people fighting for you the way that you need to be fought for, in a way, is what I guess is what I'm trying
Correct.
to say. So,
Yep.
all right. So I want two more things from you. One is tell the audience where they can find you and anything upcoming that they need to know to look out for you. And then the second thing is leave the audience with one empowering thought about the imposter syndrome to help them, move forward.
So first, thank you so much again for having me here. Everybody can find me. My website is MaryannRivera-Dannert.com. No hyphen between the last names. So MaryannRivera-Dannert.com. You can find everything on there from my books to podcasts to upcoming events to coaching and so much more. And there's a lot of free resources there also. What's coming up? Let's see. There's a lot of events now that I have my own event space. I try to have something going on every single Saturday, unless I'm out of town.
Mhm.
June 17th, I'm having my first webinar. So
Yay.
that's going to be virtual and in person. And again, all that information is on the website. Let's see what else. I am also going to be rebranding. So my podcast right now is Fearless Fridays with Maryann. I am going to be changing the name starting in June, which is going
Okay.
to be called Healing Her Within. Again, just going in line with, healing the inner child, healing the inner you. And then my magazine also is going to be rebranded, which right now is called Fabulousness Unleashed. Is going to also be called Healing Her Within. So those two things are going to be transitioning in June, which I'm super excited about. I just feel that it aligns more with who I am. And in empowering thoughts, I want you to remember that you are a priority and you matter. Whenever that little inner critic starts to creep in, whenever that imposter syndrome tries to show up, which is always going to be there, you're just going to learn to recognize it. I don't want you to push it off and ignore it. I want you to invite it, pull up a chair, have a conversation with it. And when you're ready, just thank them and release them of their job.
Absolutely. Dr. Maryann, thank you for being with us and for keeping it so real. Family, I hope today reminded you that even when you don't feel worthy, you still are. If you found value in today's session, drop a comment, share this with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'm Coach April, reminding you to step boldly, speak truth to your doubts, and never dim your light. Thank you.